Hello and welcome to the Capitol Report on Entity Television. I'm Steve Lance. Former President Trump today again speaking about his indictments and the latest poll numbers. That's as his lawyers are fighting with the Justice Department over how much Trump is allowed to say publicly about the 2020 election case. Entity's Iris Tao has more.
In touting the latest poll numbers, former President Trump today said that the latest indictment from last week has only increased his popularity.
In the morning consult that just came out, I wanted to see, because, you know, every time you get indicted, I like to check the polls, because one more indictment that I think this election's over.
Poll numbers by the Morning Consult updated today show that Trump holds a rock-solid lead after the latest indictment, and currently standing at 59%. And Trump speaking today in New Hampshire, an early voting state in the GOP primaries, again lashed out at the latest indictment.
The case is a ridiculous case. It's a First Amendment case. But we don't want Trump to speak. When we say, I can't talk, I will talk about it. I will. They're not taking away my First Amendment right.
Meanwhile, Trump's lawyers are fighting with federal prosecutors over the DOJ's request for a protective order, which is meant to restrict what Trump and his team can say about the details in the 2020 election case. The judge in charge of this case, Judge Tanya Chutkan, has said that she wants to hold a hearing about this issue before the end of this week. But while the DOJ says it's ready any time, Trump's legal team responded today saying that they want to push it back to early next week, citing a busy legal schedule with his lawyers. Despite that, the judge today set the hearing to Friday morning. And Trump, meanwhile, will not appear for this upcoming hearing at this courthouse. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Iris Tao, NPD News.
Another Republican candidate for president has qualified for the first primary debate later this month. That's former Vice President Mike Pence, and his campaign confirms that he has met the requirements. Pence is among 8 GOP presidential candidates who've met the polling and donor requirements for the first debate, according to their campaigns. The other candidates are former President Trump, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy, former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, Senator Tim Scott, and North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum. The debate is being organized by the Republican National Committee and will take place in Milwaukee, Wisconsin on August 23rd. And speaking of the 2024 GOP primary, big changes happening in Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' campaign. He's replacing his campaign manager, Janera Peck, and this ends weeks of speculation about Peck's future. DeSantis is replacing Peck with his gubernatorial office chief of staff, James Uthmeier. Uthmeier is a trusted advisor. He's known in Florida as an enforcer for DeSantis' agenda and devoted protector of his political brand. This is the latest development in a shakeup of DeSantis' team. The Florida governor has fired dozens of campaign staffers in recent weeks. Congressional Democrats visit Eagle Pass, Texas today. That's where Governor Greg Abbott has installed razor wire and buoys to deter illegal immigrants from crossing. NTD's Melina Wisecup has both sides of the story, as well as an update on the DOJ's lawsuit against Texas.
A Texas congressional delegation and members in the Hispanic caucus are in Eagle Pass, Texas, taking a closer look at how Texas is handling the illegal immigration influx. Here's how Congressman Joaquin Castro describes it.
The clothing of people, including kids, that's stuck to the wire, literally stuck to the razor wire. They're forcing Border Patrol to stay away from some of these areas when it's the Border Patrol that actually has responsibility for all of this process.
Texas has installed buoys along the Rio Grande River to deter illegal crossings. 2 bodies have since been recovered. The DOJ sued Texas, calling for the river barrier to be removed. Later this month, a federal judge will hear the case to determine whether those floating barriers are legal. The group of Democrats have long been critical of the Republican governor's approach, but Republicans say the cost of not having the aggressive deterrent feeds other serious issues.
Among those being trafficked most, children. Unbelievable.
We're going to have to decide as Texans what we're going to do about it.
Republicans have disputed the Biden administration's claim that illegal border crossings are down because Republicans say this is due to a change in how data is collected, also a new policy that simply funnels what would be illegal immigrants through the ports of entry. Now, there are a few bipartisan bills here in Congress that address both the immigration reform issue as well as border security, but we have not yet seen any hints from leadership on either the House side with Speaker McCarthy or the Senate side with Senate Leader Chuck Schumer that they're willing to move these bills forward for a bipartisan solution. Reporting from Capitol Hill, Melina Weiskup, NTD News.
Lawmakers and commentators are reacting to news of 11 Chinese and Russian warships operating near Alaska yesterday. What does this mean, and what was the U.S.'s response, and was it adequate? Joining us now to offer his take, we have Congressman Mike Waltz of Florida. Congressman Mike Waltz, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, happy to be with you.
Congressman, Russia, China conducting an unprecedented joint military exercise in the Bering Sea right near Alaska. Do we know exactly how close this was, and what message are these two countries trying to send to the United States?
Well, they were just outside of our territorial waters, but I think the takeaway we need to have is multifold. One, we could only muster 4 ships to go and surveil and track and deter their 11 warships that was just off Alaska's coast. And it speaks to the fact that in the past several defense budgets under President Biden, we have retired more ships than we're building. The Navy is actually getting smaller while China is doubling the size of their Navy and now has the largest Navy in the world. The other thing that it really highlights is how important the Arctic is becoming. With the ice cap shrinking, it's opening up new shipping lanes to the north of Canada and the north of Russia, but also huge reserves of oil and gas and massive untouched fisheries that both the Chinese and the Russians want to dominate. So we just need a real wake-up call here in terms of what's going on, the new Cold War that the Chinese Communist Party has entered in with the United States, and they were clearly sending a message with this flotilla.
Congressman, to your point, the Chinese Communist Party, they're always poking and prodding just to kind of see how much they can get away with. What does a measured U.S. response look like?
Well, I think it's responding with more than just a couple of ships. Number one, it's showing that we can very quickly and at scale match anything that they send off the shore of the United States. And then number two, I think we send 11, 12 ships through the Taiwan Strait and say, you know what, if you want to escalate, we can do that too. That's how deterrence works, particularly with dictatorships. They are going to push and push and push. And if they meet, if they're met with appeasement, if they hit mush, so to speak, they're going to push even further. If they hit steel and they hit resolve, then they know where the red lines are and where they need to stop. That's how dictatorships like what we see in Beijing and Moscow respond.
Congressman, in all seriousness, it appears as though Russia has a lot on their plate in Ukraine. What are they thinking playing games in the Bering Strait?
Well, look, let's not pretend ourselves who the lead partner is in this new Cold War. They're taking pages out of the old Soviet playbook, like reopening spy bases in Cuba and antagonizing and provoking the United States in the Bering Straits. But Russia clearly has now become a junior partner to the Chinese Communist Party. But we can't take this relationship. We have to take it very seriously. It's in everything from space to economic to their naval power. This is an unholy alliance that used to be antagonistic, but is increasingly cooperative between Chinese and Russia. Between China and Russia, this partnership that knows no limits.
Lastly, Congressman, you mentioned the Taiwan Strait. Do you think that China fears how the U.S. might respond if they were to make that move on Taiwan?
Well, I think we need to be much more clear about how we're going to respond. I think the time has come to transition from strategic ambiguity to strategic clarity. That's not just for our Taiwan partners, but also for deterrence to Beijing. That's how deterrence works, is when you have clarity. And when you have ambiguity, dictatorships think they just might get away with it, which is what happened when it comes to Russia and Ukraine. Our lack of clarity there let Putin think that he could get away with it. And then also it sends a clear message to our allies. You know, I have talked to a number of our allies in the Pacific and asked them how they will respond if we have an invasion of Taiwan. And their response has been, look, don't press us with clarity when you yourselves aren't clear. So I think we need to move to clarity, not only for our allies, but for our adversaries and also for the American people. Our leadership needs to begin explaining why Taiwan is so important and what the world will look like if China is in a position to control 50% of global GDP.
Congressman Mike Waltz, thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for watching the Capitol Report. If you want to see our full broadcast, check us out at epochtv.com.